Bummer.
is it going to be somewhat withstandable for the amount of heat that you're going to endure?
Yeah.
And how long is anything? Because we can last like an hour or so in this heat most of the time. But then it's like hour 2, hour 3, it starts to become very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I did say, yeah, we are, if you've not heard the news, 1049, the Horn will be going away come August 2nd. So all the shows will be ending August 1st. This will be our final show on 1049. The Horn will still exist on 1019 FM and AM 1260, along with the Horn app and at hornfm.com. But a lot of the shows are going away. So there's a lot of changes happening in the office right now. But very grateful for the fact that I've been able to do this for 4.5 years, through COVID, through everything else, that I was able to continue to do this show. So a lot of thanks to everyone who's made it possible and everyone here at the Austin Radio Network. But let's get into the hot sports content that is happening this time of year. It is the dead season.
Yes.
We are really hitting the dead season right now. I know people are starting to report to camps in NFL, so I think we'll start to get some NFL news coming soon. But right now, it is still pretty dead.
Yep.
But let's talk a little NBA. We'll start off there. We're basically now officially into the lull of the offseason. It seems as if vacations have started for people. Yep. Summer League is over. I don't think there's going to be much movement on Damian Lillard. I don't think there's a ton of movement on James Harden. Both those guys seem to be like they're kind of waiting it out, so I don't see either one of those moves happening right now, which means there's probably not many things happening.
Yep.
For a while. We may be in hibernation for a month or so for the NBA. So let's take a look at some grades of what we can do for what people did in the offseason, starting off from the draft to the offseason. And I want to find some biggest winners and losers. And I think we're both going to have somebody on our biggest winners list.
For sure. Well,
I'll let you say them, Anthony.
the Lakers.
Yes, the Lakers are on. They're on most people's. I know there's some people. Look, there is a reality that the Lakers. You can't say, oh, their offseason was so amazing. Like, what an offseason. It's the best offseason anyone's had. But you say, for how this offseason could have turned out for the Lakers,
Yep.
This is about as good as it could have gone, aside from, everyone getting bought out of their contract and just going over there to play for no money.
I mean, you got to just think about where we started last season with Russell Westbrook and where we are now.
Yeah.
It's just day and night. So, yeah, by far, leaps and bounds.
Yeah, so it's definitely a big step up. You're able to keep Austin Reeves. I was listening to an interesting thing. I think it was all about the smoke, but he was talking to Matt Barnes about how he basically declined. He could have been basically Detroit, I think, at pick 42 in the draft when he was in there, said, hey, we'll draft you. And he said, that's okay. I'll be an undrafted free agent. And he had a tier system of what teams he would fit in best with. And the Lakers, he said, were number 2 on that list. And so he ended up in L.A.
Did he say who number 1 was?
He thought it was Milwaukee.
Oh, okay.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, I see that.
So he ends up there. Now he just gets his contract. But again, he gives him the favorable deal where he doesn't try and sign for more money elsewhere and then get matched by the Lakers. He gives them the favorable deal. So it's not a backloaded deal or a front-loaded deal or however the hell they have to do that. So I think that they end up well there. They end up getting multiple point guards, and Gabe Vincent and D'Angelo Russell comes back, which either he plays well and you keep him, or he becomes a trade chip at a good price at the trade deadline. You keep Rui Hachimura. You get Jackson Hayes in.
Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, yeah.
It's one of those things that when you look at the roster after it's all done, it feels like they did better than what they actually did, because you're still like, all right, that's still not a world-beating lineup.
Right.
But at the same point, it's not so much that, oh, my God, that's the best offseason any team's ever had. It's just when you look at the winners and losers of this offseason, they did really well for what they had, and it's one of the better offseasons that anybody had. It's not necessarily the risk and reward, because some of these teams are super risk-reward based. I'll give you another winner. The Pacers had a really good offseason. They basically don't do a ton, but bolster up their lineup. They get Obi Toppin for basically nothing in there. They make a couple other moves. I like what the Pacers did to try and move up a little bit. I'm still not sure if they're going to be able to take that next step. But if Tyrese Halliburton does take another step, then they can go in that direction. And, Miles Turner's been involved in every single trade machine scenario for him and
Jaylen Brown.
And Jaylen Brown. And just like those guys are going to be in every single trade scenario. Everybody wants Miles Turner except for the Pacers, apparently. But that's going to be an interesting lineup to see what they've got going. But I think Obi Toppin will play better with a guy like Miles Turner who can space the floor a little bit better for him. And then they can play defense together.
How do you feel about the Utah Jazz and what they did this offseason?
I think they're doing okay. I'm just curious what their end game is going to be. Because I feel like they have to make a big move at some point, because you're not going to get the free agent, and you're past the point where you're going to get the draft pick. So you're not getting the number 1 draft pick.
Right.
Now, you may be able to get a number 3 somewhere in the lottery because you own so many draft picks.
I was going to say, they already have so many, though.
But, those draft picks, it depends on where they're at. Because if you go, hey, man, we got 4 draft picks in this first round, and it's 8, 13, 17, and 25. Well, you're like, well, I don't really need 4 guys.
Yeah.
And so I got to trade up, but everybody knows I can't keep all 4, or I have to trade back and they would another draft. So it becomes, at a certain point you end up like Oklahoma City and you have to make a move. I like what they've done, but I think they're still in that, you're too good now. You got too good before you got the star player. And so now how do you get that star player if a guy like Dame Lillard is available and you can't get him because he says he won't play there? And so if you say no one wants to play here, so we can't go get a star by trading for him because no one wants to come here, and we can't draft him because we're never going to have that high of a draft pick, and a star player is untradeable. Like they're not going to, like Scoot Henderson, you would have had to give up the world to get him.
Right. Well, so what if they go a different route and they've amassed all some really good players, not a number 2, but a really decent players, all these draft picks, they go out and get their number 2, who then can lure in that number 1 player.
But that's the thing is who is in the number 2. It's you have Lauri Markkanen, who's a good player, was an All-Star this year, but that's because the game was in Utah. You have Jordan Clarkson that's there, who's a good player, but I don't know how much higher his ceiling is.
But that's what I'm saying. You put Markkanen and some picks in a deal for a legitimate number 2.
I don't think you get, but like that's the thing is if you're going to Markkanen for, and that's the deal. Who are you getting? Even if you say, all right, we're going to go Markkanen and Colin Sexton and this other, and we'll get Jaylen Brown back or something like that. Because we're just throwing them into every trade.
Right.
All right, well, there's Jaylen Brown. Well, Jaylen Brown, if he goes to Utah, he wants to be your number 1. He's not going to be happy. He's not going to go recruit you a number 2. He's pissed off he's playing with a number 2 now.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be. He thinks he's number 1 in Boston. And the only reason it worked a year ago is because Ime Udoka convinced him he was number 2. And then Joe Mazzulla apparently threw that out the window and said, you're all number 1s in my eyes.
What about Siakam?
But that's not a. I mean, again,
That's a number 2.
Is Pascal Siakam recruiting anybody? Did he recruit anybody to Toronto?
That's fair. That's hard.
Like that's what I'm saying. 2s don't recruit people. 1s recruit people. LeBron James recruits people. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know who you're going to be able to get in there.
Right.
So they may be able to pull it off. Danny Ainge has done it before, where he was able to get a Kevin Garnett in Boston. He was able to get Ray Allen, and so he basically got a 1 and a 3. And I get Paul Pierce. You can say Paul Pierce was an amazing player. I don't want to take anything away from Paul Pierce to say he was number 2. But you basically had those 2 1s that needed another guy. And so that worked really well. He was able to pull that trade off. Can you find a guy in today's NBA who wants out but also doesn't mind going to Utah? And is that a Luka Doncic if he gets mad at Dallas? But does he – because you figure it has to be someone who is not an American. I don't know any American who wants to go to Utah, but somebody from someone from another country may not have that same proclivities of not wanting to go to Utah.
Right.
So I could see like that. But again, I don't see Luka Doncic asking for a trade in the next 2 years either. So I mean, or is it do you try and go after Atlanta? And if it's Trae Young, but is Trae Young actually going to win you anything?
That's what I was thinking. But
so like a lot of these guys,
yeah.
it doesn't. I just don't know who the guy is. So that's my one worry with Utah.
Sure.
Like, and that's where the Spurs are different. And that's why the Spurs get to be on your winners list because they got Wembanyama. And you say we got a number 1. The rest is manageable, but getting the star is the thing. And maybe Wembanyama doesn't become it. We know that's still out there, but I think you got that. Like, for the fact the Spurs didn't have to tank for 5 years hoping to get it, that you have to put them on the winners list. And yes, it was a lottery. It wasn't a win of any natural doing, but they're a winner because they won the draft lottery. They got the guy they've been scouting for 5 years. They're winners. Because they now have the number one, and you just have to build off of that. That's where a team like Utah worries you.
But in the same breath, you would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, you would say that OKC is a loser because they didn't do anything to build.
I think OKC's a lot quicker because Josh Giddey is still improving. SGA is an All-NBA player this year. He could still be even better. Chet Holmgren could be better. We know what Jordan Clarkson is. John Collins is in Utah. I like John Collins, but we've never seen that out of him. So he would have to play at a higher level. We know. I don't think Lauri Markkanen is all of a sudden going to be. So I don't know who on that team can improve. Where on Oklahoma City, I know 3 guys who may be able to step up, and that's a big 3 you could believe in. If all 3 of those guys play really well, that's a big 3.
So then you don't see them as a loser for not getting anybody to help.
I would like to see them try and build the team out more than that.
Okay.
But I don't, just because you have so many picks. I don't know what you're holding on to them all for.
Yeah.
I'd like to see you try and go all in instead of waiting another season, but maybe it works out for them. Maybe it does. I don't put them as a winner because I don't think they did enough. I don't think they did much this offseason.
What about Miami?
No, not yet. They're not a winner or a loser because
you don't think they're a loser by like watching a lot of their.
No, because I'm not going to put them on a loser
rotation?
yet because they could still get Dame Lillard. And if they get Dame Lillard for next to nothing, then of course they're a winner. Because they couldn't afford to. They did it for Duncan Robinson where they paid an undrafted guy a bunch of money. They couldn't do it again. They got burned on it last time. So they don't want to do it again. And I know that Duncan Robinson, his contract isn't as bad as it actually is, but it is. It is if the guy's not playing.
Sure.
And so you just couldn't afford to do that for everybody there. Yeah, if Dame Lillard doesn't go, they're definitely losers. 100% if they can't get Dame Lillard. Here's a team that I want to see your side on.
Okay.
Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Winners or losers for you?
So that's a good one. Winners, but like with an asterisk.
Yeah.
Because it's an all-in. It's a very risky all-in. They still basically have no depth.
No depth.
No picks, and it's kind of a win right now with an unproven team. I mean, you know your KDs and you know your Bookers, but all those other players, Bill, that's just a lot of mouths to feed, and it rarely does that work.
No, exactly. You have a lot of offensive players. I imagine Devin Booker will play 75 to 80 games. I imagine Bradley Beal will play 65 to 70 games. 65 to 75. I'll give him 65 to 75. Kevin Durant's going to play around 55 to 60.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton, who knows? And we don't know if they're going to keep him. I know they're trying to say that they really want him now because they don't want to, they don't want to show any signs right now. They trade off Cameron Payne to the Spurs. But just another guy who has any sort of experience on that team.
That's true.
They basically took a bunch of guys that are really young and don't have a lot of experience, and they could be good, but it's like, dude, once you get to this playoffs, and you're playing your guys 45 minutes a game, and then what's your plus minus when you have to pull some of these guys out?
Right.
What if Kevin Durant gets in foul trouble? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
When you have to start playing guys some actual minutes. I think the Eric Gordon pickup was good for them. I like some of the stuff
they got him basically for free.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like they did good stuff. I like a lot of the players they picked up. It's just such an all-in approach, and I don't know if it works come playoff time. If everybody's healthy, it's great. But, man, that is a big if in today's NBA.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a loser that I want to see if it's on your winner or loser. The Boston Celtics.
I'm glad you asked that one. I think they're losers because they gave up Smart for Porzingis, and I think they're more of a loser that they backed this coach. Yep. That they went all in on this unproven and actually even more so proven that he's not ready for coach, and they just thought, nope, we're going to do this, and have yet to sign Jaylen Brown or done anything with them. So it's just this uncomfortable, what are we going to do type thing. So
and again, we added another mouth to feed.
Yeah.
We added a guy who doesn't want to play defense, doesn't play a lot of a season, has an injury history, and yeah, his stats are great in Washington. Everyone's stats are great in Washington because they don't win. They just all play a few games and they go, all right, this is the Porzingis game. Let him get 40. Like, I don't buy that Porzingis has been basically kicked off of 2 teams now for underperforming, and he's the great find that's going to help you replace the toughness when you lose Grant Williams and Marcus Smart.
Right.
And you add in now a 35-year-old coach, I believe, that says he watches The Town 4 times a week, that this guy, and he's like, no, let's just play offense. Let's just go full run and gun. You go, well, what team has that really ever worked for in the finals? Yeah. I don't know what team that like, you have to be at a certain point. You have to be able to play some defense and have a couple of defenders. You don't have to have a ton. You can have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum not play defense, but you need Marcus Smart. You got rid of him. You got Derek White. You don't want to keep Brogdon. You want to get rid of him. So I don't like that move.
Yeah.
I don't like backing Missoula's playing style because you're like, all right, now you're moving away from everything that made you. You were so close. You were so close to it. And then you went, not close enough. Let's blow it all up. And then you weren't close this year. I know you think you were, but you weren't.
Yeah.
Because Miami beat you.
Yeah.
And Miami almost swept you. And you're still – and the only reason they didn't sweep you is because at some point Jimmy Butler decided to not be mad anymore. Maybe that's when he started dating Shakira. Maybe that was it. Maybe the hips got to him. And, women weaken knees. They weaken legs. We all know that from Rocky. Maybe that's what happened. And Jimmy Butler wasn't the same from Game 3. I'm still on the thing. I think Jimmy Butler saw that they were about to play the Nuggets and realized they had 0 chance in that series. And he basically, it killed him.
Yeah.
That he was like, I'm not getting a ring. Like, we can't beat them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to believe that because Jimmy Butler, I just don't believe is that guy.
Yeah, I don't think
But it
so.
just feels like Game 3, they were up on the Celtics, and that dude was the best player in the playoffs. And then he was an okay player after that. I don't even know if he was the best player on the Heat in a lot of games. Bam Adebayo had better games than him. So for me, that was just I don't think Boston was that. I think they're further away last year. And I know, well, we're going to get Joe Mazzulla another year of coaching. I just don't buy it.
Yeah, I mean, so of the teams, did any of them improve enough to really compete with Denver?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody. I think Milwaukee stayed good enough that if we
the fact that they kept their core is that they're a winner, right?
If we get a healthy Milwaukee, that's a finals that could go either way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, Denver has to stay healthy too. They lose Bruce Brown, which is a big piece of it. So Christian Brown has to step up into that spot.
Do you think it's that he is that big of a loss, or is it you played next to one of the greatest players alive, and now you're going to play with a bunch of...
I think it is a loss. I think Jeff Green's a loss. I think when you take guys that are...
I think Jeff Green's more of a loss than Bruce Brown.
I think they both are because Bruce Brown could just play more minutes.
Sure.
But I think that's the thing is you need guys to play minutes throughout the season. You need guys to play minutes in these games. And you need guys that are a spark. And Bruce Brown was a spark when guys are getting tired deep into the playoffs. It's not a thing that I think they can't overcome, but it's definitely a loss. I want to throw one more team out there before we move on, unless you have another one.
No, I'm good.
Clippers. The Clippers lose Eric Gordon. They're not able to they basically move on from that. They keep Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. They
still have Paul George. There was apparently multiple trade offers talked about for Paul George. They keep him. They still have Kawhi Leonard with a contract coming up. They don't really do anything.
They don't do anything.
And all they're doing right now is sitting and waiting on that James Harden deal, which they know James Harden wants to go there. But this is like Miami to me, that you're like, even if you get James Harden, I take you out of the loser category, but I don't put you in the winners.
No.
But if you don't get James Harden, you're cap strapped. You got nothing, and you're just another season of like, well, we're a little bit worse than we were last year, and we weren't good enough last year.
I just keep hoping they make the big trade, the big trade, because I just don't see this sustainable for this season. They're another year older.
Building. It's that new building too, and
thing.
That's the thing is that new building where they don't want to go into it with nobody, or they don't want to go into it with a Kawhi Leonard is your only guy who doesn't want to play half the games, doesn't want to come to any of these special events, and surely doesn't want to shake hands with anybody.
Right.
He doesn't want to be your ambassador, and Paul George might be a little bit more of that. And we know Russell Westbrook will, but also they're like, hey, man, aren't you the guy that everybody wanted out of the league 3 years ago now? Still get triple doubles. Yeah. Which, I mean, he's a great fit for me on that team just in the fact that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard don't play enough. And then he's good. He'll win you like 10 games a year, 15 games a year just by himself. He'll win you some games.
Yeah.
He won't play well on a team, but he'll win you games.
Well, so real quick, the Memphis Grizzlies, do you see what they did getting rid of Dylan Brooks and then bringing on Marcus Smart? Like, do you see this?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
I like that. There's other issues with that, with the John Morant stuff.
I think they brought some other players, too.
They did say they had an okay. I like it.
Was it them that added Derrick Rose?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they brought in Derrick Rose, which I love as a mentor for.
Right.
I like what they did. I'm not going to put him in the winners category because as much as I love to trash Dylan Brooks, it is, he wasn't a bad player.
Mm-hmm.
He was a bad fit. I don't like him in locker rooms. I don't like all that nonsense.
Locker rooms.
But
every team has locker rooms.
No, I get that. But I think that in Houston, it'll be interesting to see what he does with Ime. He's not worth the money they paid him.
No.
But he should have been on a team. It's like Patrick Beverley. I don't like the guy. In my perfect world, the guy doesn't exist. He's just not there. But it's not a perfect world. And he's a good enough player. He deserves to be on a roster. He's going to be on Philly. He'll have an okay year there. He'll get super pissed off at that team halfway through and release a podcast about how it's the softest team in the league. And it's going to be great. Let's go. Do you think there's any big moves? Who do you think is the next big move? Do we get the Jaylen Brown contract? Do we get a James Harden trade? Do we get a Damian Lillard trade? Or is it something else? I'll let you say other. You still going to be Jaylen Brown contract, Damian Lillard, James Harden, or other?
I think it's a tie between other or what was the first one?
Jaylen Brown contract.
The Jaylen Brown contract. But I don't see Dame getting done anytime. I don't see that happening until midseason. James Harden.
Yeah. Both of those, I don't know if they happen before the season unless the other team really comes off with some stuff.
Yeah.
And Miami, again, will come off of everything they can. I just don't know how. Like, if you're trying to keep Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, they would give up the rest of the team for him and all the draft picks they can. I feel like they would do that in a heartbeat. It doesn't work like that.
What if they offered Pat Riley?
Wait, how am I in this?
You signed off. It was your idea.
Oh, how mad would Damian Lillard be if Chauncey Billups followed him to? It's like, what are you doing here? I want to come here too. Let's talk a little MLB before we get to the break. We are just starting the second half. Astros play tonight at 8:40 against the A's. Really need to sweep this series to get into next week's series with the Rangers. Still within striking distance. Rangers playing extremely well. Had the day off today, but I believe they swept the Rays in that series, which was, Rays are a really good team. They're about to go play the Dodgers. Really don't want to root for the Dodgers, but the Dodgers won a game or two in this series. It wouldn't kill me. It wouldn't kill me if they got swept either. I don't like the Dodgers. But let's do a couple little predictions just for teams, since we won't be back on the air before we get to the World Series, I believe. The AL champion.
AL champion, I'm going to say Astros.
You're going to go with the Astros in that one?
Yeah.
I believe it will be the Texas Rangers.
How dare you?
I think they're playing really, really well this year, and I think they're going to go crazy at the trade deadline.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think so put it this way, are they World Series or AL champs if they don't get Shohei? Or if they do.
If they get him 100%. But I think they could make some other trades.
Okay.
So I think they could bring in some other guys as well. I don't think they sit pat at the trade deadline.
Okay.
So I think they probably add at least one more pitcher, if not two, and then maybe another bat in there, which is just going to make them really, really good, really hard to beat. And in that American League, I don't have the confidence in the Orioles. I don't.
I was going to have to ask that.
I just don't. And once we get to the playoffs, I don't have that confidence in them. And they may do it, but I like the Rangers this year, and Bochy's a really good manager. I like what they're doing there. The NL champ.
It's the Braves, right?
It's the Braves. Yeah, it's the Braves. They're playing amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, World Series champ, I get the Braves in this one. I think the Braves beat the Rangers in my World Series.
The Astros are repeats.
Astros are repeats. You know what? I love the homerism. I'm a fan of it. You know what? It's the last show for Insinserious. Astros win it all.
Thank you,
they
sir.
They don't lose another game this series,
terrible.
this season. It's over. I forgot. What do I have to back this up? By the way, you can follow me at It's Patrick Davis online and tell me how wrong I am about things. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a little fantasy football talk, Black Sports Spotlight, top shelf, bottom shelf, and a little bit later, some Insinserious news. All that and more coming up on Insinserious on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. Stream it live on the Horn app and hornfm.com. Back at Insinserious here on the Horn. Always nice to hear from Curtis Lee. By the way, if you like that music, check out Curtis Lee playing this Saturday at the Austin Beer Garden and the ABGB.
Yes.
Austin Beer Garden and Brewery. That was the other B I was trying to think of there on Old Turf.
Nice play.
But he's doing a big show with a bunch of friends hopping up with him. Going to be a lot of fun. Curtis Lee, one of the best in town. So check him out this Saturday at the AB GB, let's talk some fantasy football.
Let's talk some fantasy football.
So
go
what do
ahead.
you got for me, Anthony?
So we're just going to kind of talk about these big names that are the big names this year that have changed teams. So, like, first off, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
He goes to Tennessee.
Signed
one of the most
ridiculous contract.
disappointing moves in a long time. But then I saw a interesting stat of like the last several aging wide receivers.
Yeah.
This is kind of where they go to die.
Yeah.
The Julio Joneses, the I think even was it Andre Johnson went over there.
Yeah.
So do you see this being the same thing, or do you see actually some production and DeAndre thriving in Tennessee?
Thriving. All right, so
You got Traylon Burks on one side.
it has nothing to do with anything on there except the quarterbacks.
Yes.
Is Ryan Tannehill, who has never been a great quarterback, is he able to still be good enough this year and still want to keep his job enough that he can get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, who, in all reality, has played with bad quarterbacks most of his career, other than Deshaun Watson for a very little bit, and some passes he got from Kyler Murray when he was healthy, then he hasn't played with a lot of good quarterbacks.
Right.
So that's the question: is does he have the quarterback? If Will Levis comes in, I think that becomes even harder. Will Levis may be good in a few years. I just don't see any way that he is a really good quarterback his rookie season.
So prior to signing this, he was getting drafted in the decent rounds, 4th, 5th, 6th round. Now he's actually fallen back. Where would you feel comfortable drafting him?
Yeah, I'd probably put him 7th or 8th. And I mean, because I think he'll still have good catches. I think he's definitely going to be a red zone target because he is one of those guys who wins 50-50 balls. He's not a great route runner, but he is a guy who can, if you throw the ball up, he's really good at going to get it.
Yeah.
And so I think he could be that. He's also playing on a team with Derrick Henry on there, that with Mike Vrabel is an old school guy who's going to run the ball in red zone. But for me, it's not necessarily that he's going to get the amount of catches or yardage every game. It's you're looking more in touchdown production for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. So I'd put him a little bit later when you're talking about guys who go, he could have 8 touchdowns this year, 9 touchdowns, I think. I think that's a realistic number for him to have.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I wouldn't say he's averaging a touchdown a game.
No.
But I think, he could have one in over half of the games. He could have a touchdown. So that puts him a little bit lower in mine. But yeah, that signing of him, people are like, well, some people just sign for the money. I'm like, that was the money? That was the big offer? No one was going to touch that? It didn't make sense to me.
It doesn't, and it kind of concerning. All right, the other one, another one. We got 3 more. Saquon Barkley, who just recently on a radio show said that he might have
to sit out the entire
season, which
yes.
On Twitter they showed one of the same things. Le'Veon Bell kind of related to that.
Yeah.
Do you see that being that, or do you see the Giants actually coming through and paying this guy?
I would say that seeing how the rest of this offseason is going, I don't think it's – and he may. I don't think he should do it this season. I think he should play on the tag and –
show his worth?
No. I think they should try and organize the running backs to do something this offseason. It's way too late in this offseason to organize multiple running backs refusing to sign and trying to do anything like that. You're basically a martyr in this offseason, and if the Giants win without you, then, man, oh no. Because then running back, you're like, yeah, of course we're never paying you again. Why would we pay you? And the problem is he's coming from an offensive coordinator who in Buffalo didn't use running backs. So I know he used him last year.
Right.
But the head coach there, when he was an offensive coordinator in Buffalo never had really great running backs.
And that's kind of the thing is at this point, so you're talking about doing this coming together, but what's the real argument to pay?
No, I agree. I think, and there was Foxworth had a thing earlier we were listening to on Ball Don't Lie earlier today about basically there's another fund for players overperforming their contracts that may be able to help out running backs. I just think that when you go into next offseason and Austin Eckler is involved and because he's already agreed to come back and Jonathan Taylor is a free agent and you start to add in a couple more guys But right now, it's Saquon and Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs, unfortunately, doesn't have the track record to pull it off. Even though he led the league in rushing last year, he's in Las Vegas with a terrible head coach, and I don't think the amount of sympathy is there for him that it is for Saquon. So I don't know if he's gonna if just him and Josh Jacobs hold out a whole season. I don't think it does a lot to convince everybody.
That's fair.
So I think he's going to have to play. I think everyone's going to go, hey, and the running backs are talking now.
Right.
We are seeing more that they're talking. So it may be something like, hey, we got to get through this season. Let's all show our worth and maybe do something in it. But you need to get to the point where I think there's more names on the table, more owners are involved, but it's just too late in this offseason to do it. Too many teams signed for you need guys like a Deontay Foreman and guys like that who are signing for $1 million, $2 million deals. You need to talk to I think DeAndre Swift is a free agent this offseason too, and he has one of the best agents in the game, and David Mulligetta, UT grad, who got Deshaun Watson the fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
So, you need some more of that where you need agents and everybody to be like, all right, we're going to take up the running back cause this offseason. But it's way too late for that now.
Sure.
So I think he plays this season.
Okay, but let's say, so in the draft happens, he hasn't signed. He hasn't done training camp. Where do you feel comfortable drafting him? Because he's obviously right now still going in the first. But come draft season, are you putting up that risk and taking him in the first or second round, knowing that he hasn't signed, knowing that there's a chance he might miss a few games?
I'd probably say late second round.
Okay.
I'd still take him because he is the guy that you're like, okay, if he comes back, it may be 1 or 2 weeks will be not great, and then I think it'll pick up immensely. It would worry me a little bit. It depends, if I'm late second round and I get and I in the first round get a good running back, then I'm probably not taking him in late second round either because I'm taking a wide receiver in the second round. So it may be something where it depends on how it falls. But
right.
if I end up with Travis Kelce in the first round, I may go with him. If I end up with Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or somebody like that in the first round, I may go with him if all the other running backs are gone.
Fair enough. This is one of my favorite ones, David Montgomery, who recently was with the Chicago Bears, now is with the Detroit Lions. He does have Gibbs is there now, the rookie. There's another running back there. But what people don't understand is David Montgomery was one of the best running backs on a really, really bad team. And he's definitely not going to be the number one there. But you remember last year what Jamal Williams did, not being the number one there. And so he's going to literally just supplant that role, but a better version of it. And so in my eyes, he's falling way back. He's not getting drafted until like the 8th, 9th, 10th round. If you're getting him there, that's another one of those, if again with roster construction, but that's another one of those players that can literally easily win you your league. Because you look at the touchdowns that Jamal Williams did last year, that's just David Montgomery. And if Gibbs does not do as well as everybody thinks he's going to do, you have a already started running back at your number 2. What do you think?
No, I like Montgomery there. I think it is that point. I think Jahmyr Gibbs will do well, but I also think they're going to run 2 running backs a lot. And, I mean, we saw they did it last year. So I think that's a safe pick. I like that.
And then lastly, Rodgers. What do you think he does in fantasy-wise? Like he's kind of hard to rate anyways because when it comes to fantasy –
you want mobile quarterbacks before.
You always want mobile, but he's always definitely one of those quarterbacks that if you get him in like the very last few rounds, fantastic. Do you see him even getting drafted this year?
I think if you draft Garrett Wilson, he's a good one.
Yeah.
I like a stack with Garrett Wilson.
Just Garrett, not Lazard, not
I mean I don't mind it with Lazard, but that's like that you're making that pick a little bit later in the round. No. With Garrett Wilson, I like it as just like, okay, now my number 1 receiver, my number 2 receiver is going to be killing it with my quarterback, who they're going to put up really good numbers. I like it that way. I don't, again, it depends on your league. Some leagues draft, your quarterbacks go, and you don't necessarily want to get stuck with Ryan Tannehill. So you might want to get him at that point. But yeah, he's not a mobile quarterback. He's aging. It's a new team. It could take him a few weeks to get used to it. So. It could hurt you early on, and then you put him on the bench, and then he blows up for a big game, and then you put him back in, and he struggles again, and then you put him on your bench, and he blows up for a big game. Could totally see that happen.
that's a you league.
That's a me decision. Yeah. Let's go over to the Black Sports Spotlight. What do you got for us this week?
All right, for our last one, we are going to be talking about one Roderick Henry Babers, born October 6, 1980. He is a former American football cornerback who played for who was drafted by the New York Giants. His college years was played for Texas. He was the first team All Big 12 in 2002. He is the greatest sports radio talk show host on Ball Don't Lie. He would be sorely missed. He's a great man, and salute to Mr. Roderick Babers.
Yeah, Rod Babers is an awesome dude. I've been very lucky to be able to work with him for the last year and a half on Ball Don't Lie, and Mike Harge as well. So it is I appreciate that.
Yes.
Great Rob Babers there on the Black Sports Spotlight of the Week. Let's go to Top Shelf, Bottom Shelf for every week. Anthony gives me the stories we didn't have time to get to in the rest of the show, and I will tell you if they're grade A, when Insinserious started, and
yes.
Bottom Shelf, last show. But you know what? We're going to stick around. Keep following us on Twitter and social media. I have a feeling we just did a big fantasy football conversation. There will be a lot more fantasy football conversations we will be having in the digital atmosphere of 2023. We'll be going there. You can join the conversation, 512-337-3776. Join us there on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. If you've got a comment on one of these topics, or you got topics you want us to hit, Anthony, what do you got for us?
All right, I don't know this one. So Mariners outfielder Jared Kelenic breaks foot by kicking water cooler.
This is one of my favorite things that happens in MLB like once or twice a year. Guy gets mad, strikes out, decides to go on the injured list. Goes over, kicks a water cooler. And that moment, if you just made a YouTube video of people hurting themselves and that rage into embarrassment, that switch of the face where they're still mad, but then they're like, I just did something really bad, didn't I? Like, because now they think I suck and I'm going to go on the injured list, and they're going to be like, what for? And you're like, because I suck. Yeah, it's hilarious stuff. Top Shelf, grade A. As long as it's not an Astro, I am all for more of these stories.
Love it. Is it on video, like a YouTube?
I have not seen the video. I know that he afterwards apologized and was like, yep, it's on me. I'm an idiot. And you're like, yeah, okay. Which I appreciate that he didn't do the route of some of these guys who like get in a motorcycle accident and they were like, I was just walking along, and then all of a sudden I was going 65 miles per hour with no shirt on.
Messi joining Inter.
So he joins Miami. They do a big intro. Sorry. They do a big intro for him. They sell out the building for the intro. For him just being introduced, walking out in a suit and taking pictures, they sell it out for that. It is going to be fun. I will tell you, for MLS, it'll be fun to watch just fan reactions on opposing teams cheering for Messi. Wherever he goes, he will get a huge ovation. Seeing what he's able to do, watching guys try and make a name for themselves, and some of them doing it, and some of them being embarrassed trying to go after him. It's just, I think there's going to be fun watching what Messi does. Will it mean I watch more soccer?
I was going to ask, what's the plus or minus there? How many more games are you going to watch?
If I'm hanging out and there's nothing else on, which there's nothing else on right now,
right?
I may put it on, but I'll probably be watching a lot more highlights. I will watch more highlights and keep up with it that way.
That's a shame. Shame.
That's a shame.
Tennessee coach says only one UT in the SEC. That's so dumb.
Josh Heupel was asked at SEC Media Days, now that UT is going to the SEC, which is the real UT or whatever, and he says there's only one UT and only one shade of orange. And the best part about that is he didn't say it was Tennessee. You know why? Because he went to Oklahoma and he's stupid. Sorry, I couldn't do a better OU joke, but we will know that it's 8:45 and OU still sucks.
Yes. We kind of hit on this earlier, but Saquon Moll skipping season.
This is hey, look, it's hilarious that he did it wearing the Le'Veon Bell jersey shirt. I love the Bumblebee shirt. I think he ends up playing. We just talked about it. I think he ends up playing. It's a terrible situation right now for running backs that they're basically getting screwed on it. And the funniest part is I'm sure Zeke has no clue that he is part of the reason. And he's just like, guys, I can't get a contract. And they're like, you jumped the line, Zeke. That's why we're all here, because you jumped the line.
Yeah, But if he does miss the season, like that's a huge thing for the Giants.
It is. Well, it's not huge for the Giants. It's huge for running backs. It's huge for football. Like the Giants spent a ton of money on Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
They don't have a wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, they have a ton of middlemen, but yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have a guy on the offense. So if Daniel Jones, and if you're trying to sell tickets and your ticket thing says come see Daniel Jones and some other dudes, I feel like Giants fans may feel like they're being underappreciated because you couldn't reach a deal with Saquon. And I get you don't want to pay Saquon $16 million a year. I get it. I don't think you need to pay him $16 million in today's market. I think you could come out and say, hey, look, let's give you a little bit more security, or let's give you some more incentive-based things for this season at least. Get you on the field this season, and we will renegotiate. And if I'm Saquon, I want to renegotiate next year when every running back, like when there's way more big-name running backs out there. I get 27 is the cutoff. He's about 27, and that's they don't want to pay you anymore. I get it. You're gonna have to buck these trends. They don't want to pay you if you're 21, so they don't want to pay you. Period. The 27 is part of it, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's do one more.
UFC Fight Night.
Any good fights on this, Anthony?
So there are good fights if you like up and coming. There's no real talent on this one. The biggest fight are the heavyweights, but this is good. It is good. I'm gonna watch it.
You're gonna watch it. Are you gonna watch it? Do you know what time of day it comes on?
Oh, no, I'm not gonna watch it because it's gonna be during the day.
It is in London, so it'll be during the day.
It's
so
2 p.m.
Yeah, so
no,
London having
I'm
everything happening, or not London, over in England, the United Kingdom, they will have that, and the British Open is this week too, which for all of my degenerate gambling friends, is one of the favorite times of year because you can gamble on golf. That starts at about 12:30 at night. I believe the first tee time tonight will be around 12:30, 12:45. So if you want to stay up late and gamble on golf, this is your time right now in the British Open. We got to take a break. When we come back, we will get into some Insinserious news and wrap up for the last time. Insinserious on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. Stream it live on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Back on Insinserious here on the Horn. Time for some Insinserious news. Anthony, are you ready?
I am ready, sir.
All right. Our first story. There was a prankster grandpa who won the lottery, won $1 million in the lottery, tried to tell his daughters that he had won, and they were like, oh, you big prankster, you. You got us. And apparently it took him several hours to finally prove and convince to them that he did win $1 million and was going to give them some money.
All right.
Have you ever had a thing where you're so sarcastic or anything where someone just doesn't believe you for any reason and you're like, I'm telling you the truth, and they're like, there's no way. This is unbelievable. What you're telling me right now is unbelievable.
Yeah. Anytime I tell people I don't like watermelon, they're like, come on, we know you guys.
Sure you do.
Come on.
Sure you. No, I'm sure. Look, I'm sure you were just too poor to afford it, but you like it. Just find other things that are offensive I could say. Yeah, I know. I feel like there's been times where I've told people and I'm like, I don't dislike you, and they're like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you dislike me. And I'm like, I don't. I mean, in all reality, I have zero feelings towards you. I don't even think about you. But they're like, no, I really thought you hated me for a long time. I'm like, why? I don't talk to anybody. It's just my natural state. It's not hatred. Don't worry. A first-generation iPhone from 2007 sold for $190,000, $372.80. This was a 4 gigabyte model. Apparently, it's so rare because the 8 gigabyte model was immediately everyone's like, oh, that's the better one, and they all got that.
Right.
No one wanted the 4 gigabyte. But this is a first generation iPhone. It's something that you would not go, oh man, this thing will be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future. So what do we know that we have now that we can just save all of and be like, look, we've got this. This is the new dumb collectible thing that is going to be worth money. Like Nintendo games are worth a ton of money now.
Right.
There's just a lot of stuff that's nostalgic. Do we have anything now that it's going to be that?
I would say like the first like generation AI stuff.
Yeah.
The first VR headsets. Those would probably be the.
I could see the first VR headsets because people are going to put them on and be like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
You
even
used
have my
to put
arms
this
aren't
whole
in it. Oh, this is so heavy. It's fogged up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I like that. I like VR headsets. Get your first generation VR headsets.
And hold on tight.
And hold on. Yeah, and then continue to charge it once a year to make sure it still turns on. Yeah, I think it'll be a radio show host.
Oh, that's sad.
Oh, that's sad. Finally, a fuzzy invasion of domestic rabbits are basically making residents in this territory or this neighborhood trying to find homes for about 100 rabbits. They are trying to get cost raised to spade and neuter all these rabbits. Apparently, they are multiplying like rabbits.
Like they do.
And they are causing, and so they're like, oh, this is cute, but there's like 100 of them in this neighborhood, so it is not as cute. What animal, if you had an invasion, because this seems like a nice one for an invasion, what animal would it be?
I'm not going to lie. I would love an invasion of some corgis. Them little short, stubby legs, a little fat butt. I love me a corgi. I watched yesterday, or maybe it's a couple days, it doesn't matter. On Ocho Cinco, I watched a corgi races all day. It was beautiful.
You and the queen.
Huh?
You and the queen
Yes.
with your corgis. I feel like a bunch of corgis would not go well. Like 100 corgis seems like a lot of corgis.
I mean, it's excessive.
Like
but
100 of anything.
I was gonna say anything
seems like it's not great.
It's a real bummer.
I feel like what we deal with now, 100 mosquitoes.
Oh, heck no.
That's less than there are now. So it would actually be a lessening.
A decrease.
Yeah, a decrease.
A lesson.
It's a lessening. That's the word I'm going to leave you with here on Insinserious. Thanks everybody who tuned in. And who's tuned in every week. We really do appreciate 4.5 years of doing this. I really do appreciate anybody who's joined us on the text line. Anthony White, who's been here with me for the last 2 years doing this. It's a blast. We are not going away forever. I'm telling you, we'll be doing tons of fantasy football stuff. So keep following me on Twitter. I'll still be part of Ball Don't Lie for the next week and a half. Mm-hmm. So keep tuning in to Ball Don't Lie 104.9. And everybody here at the station who has put in so much work to keep it going over the years. From all the shows. Keep tuning in. Keep enjoying it. We really do appreciate it. You have no idea what it's meant to us for you guys reaching out to us over these last week or so when we broke the news. We really do appreciate it. We are going to take off, though. So until we see you next time,
Yes.
for myself, for Anthony White, keep your underwear clean. Be safe out there.